This lesson will explore overhead reaching and all the integrated components that one could consider. Not all the components, but just the basic things that we could consider. Start just by raising your shoulders up and down 2 or 3 times, feeling the movement sensation of the shoulder blades and the collarbones. Just move one shoulder blade up and down and feel how that creates a little bit of a weight shifting in the pelvis onto one sitting bone, perhaps, as well as a little more lengthening on one side of the chest. Switch sides versus the other side. Just notice there's a difference as well. So one shoulder blade will typically move easier than the other. One side of the chest will lengthen easier than the other. It's easier to get onto one sits bone versus the other. And all this stuff is normal. Put the hands on your sternum, your breastbone, and then also find your collarbones. If you go up the sternum, you get to that little notch at the base of your throat, and then you can find collarbones. Make a few movements of moving the elbows forward and backwards just to feel the availability of arching and rounding the back, separation of the shoulder blades moving together, folding of the collarbones. Allow your pelvis to roll backwards and forwards as you do this motion. Good. And then observe how you're breathing for a few moments. Usually what I see is people are more upper respiratory breathers, so which generally makes you a more shallow breather. So it's breathing in through the chest and out. And when you breathe in through the chest, if you make it a larger breath, what you can observe is that your back muscles are contracting, right? Your back extensors. So every breath you take, if 70, 80% of your breaths are upper respiratory, you're overexerting the back muscles throughout the course of the day. So that's why we say it's good to be a diaphragmatic breather. It's a more efficient way to breathing. So to get some of that, you could kind of tap your belly, tap the sides, and tap your lower back, your kidneys a little bit, and maybe just shift a little bit back and forth, side to side, forward, back, so you can kind of get a sense of the pelvic floor. And then just imagine that your breath is going to follow a heavy ball that just sinks deep into the abdominal cavity. So first get that sense that a heavy ball sinks and expands. And when you feel something like that, then just allow the breath to follow. And see what you notice. See if you feel a little more movement in the side, lower abdomen, lower back. If you consciously try to draw the breath in, whether it's through the mouth or the nose, and you suck it in, you'll feel just much more tension in the upper respiratory tract, and you'll use more of your back muscles. So just check in with the breathing once in a while and see, as we go through the lesson, if you're becoming more upper respiratory, or if you could still kind of sink the breath more into a diaphragmatic pattern. So begin by taking your arm and reaching towards the ceiling in a comfortable way. And just do that a few times and just see how that feels. What's the movement sensation in the collarbone, ribs, and the shoulder blade? And then play with the other side a few times. Feel the difference. And whichever side feels more comfortable, easy for you, stick with that side initially, and then we'll just kind of switch back and forth. If you prefer, you could just do this as a one-sided lesson as well. If you have shoulder issues, shoulder pain, then you'll just not do that side. You can do it in your imagination instead. So we'll just start with one arm, and we're going to keep the arm, in this case, a little more solid, right? So instead of reaching back and forth, bending and straightening my elbow, I'm going to reach from the shoulder, collarbone, and shoulder blade. So I reach up and I come down. I can feel that there's a little bit of a gliding sensation that I get from the shoulder blade. I can feel the collarbone, and I can also feel some lengthening in the ribs. Then I do the other side. I feel the difference. If I want to go real slow, I can start to organize it with my breath. So I'm going to exhale, and then I'll reach. And notice what I notice. Pause, wait for the exhale, reach. Right, if I do it like that, this video will take half an hour, so we're going to go a little quicker so we don't take up too much of your time. Next, as I reach, I'm going to start to consciously shift my weight in that direction. So the weight's going to shift onto that sits bone. Just observe how that feels. I switch to the other side. I shift my weight in that direction. I feel that my abdomen turns automatically towards that direction. So my pelvis is rotating a little bit. You can feel that in my hip joint. And now I'm going to organize it so that I push with my opposite leg. So I push with my left foot as I reach with my right arm. My weight goes over onto my right sits bone. I'll switch. Exhale, push, reach. How does that feel? Feel the difference. And now I'm going to integrate my eyes and my head. Make it like you want to actually reach for something, like you're reaching for an apple in a tree. So I turn my head, I look up. And with the turning, I feel much more turning in my pelvis, and I feel more side bending and twisting in the back. Switch sides, push with the leg, look at what you're reaching for, look to your hands. Exhale. Feel the opposite leg reaching forward. So I feel as I push with my left foot, the knee reaches forward. And just rest. And then I could configure the movement so it's a little opposite in the configuration. So I have my left arm up, and instead of reaching with my weight going in that direction, I'm going to reach with my weight going into the opposite sits bone and just see, well, what happens there? Why is this more difficult? I'm still looking up to what I reach, and then I try the other side. So if I'm reaching with my right arm up, now my weight I'm putting into my left sits bone. Why is that more difficult? Feels different on each side as well. Now I'm going to continue with that opposite side, but I'm going to bring in the legs. So I'm going to push. I'll try pushing with my right leg, the same leg that I shift my weight onto. See how that feels? Or now I'll push with my left leg, the opposite, and see how that feels. Feels a little easier that way. Switch sides. So it is possible to get my weight onto the other side and to figure out how to use the ground in an effective way so that I don't create too many tension patterns in my body, so I can be more at ease as I reach for something. And sometimes we need to do that. We get ourselves into awkward spaces and we need to reach for things. And inevitably what happens is we start to reach and we only go from the shoulder joint, and that can lead to injury, or sometimes really bad injury. I've seen that in the clinic. Then we can take this awareness of reaching and start to apply it to some resistance training, strengthening. Just going to take an imaginary weight right here. I'm going to hold it close to me, and I'm going to push it up towards the ceiling so that my forearm remains perpendicular to the floor. As I initiate the push, my weight's going to go towards that side a little bit, and I'm going to consciously push with my opposite leg. So if I'm pushing that weight up with my left hand, I'm pushing more with my right foot. I turn automatically, and there's a little bit more lengthening on that same side. So my weight goes over to my left sits bone, I lengthen, and I push, and I reach, and I look up at the end of that motion. If you observe me on the video, what you see is that my palm initially faces my chest, and then as I begin, I'm turning my palm away. So everything is moving in a spiral as I bring this weight up. You can just play with it. You could be like this, but I think if you start with this nice compact spiral and you make everything a little tight, inhale, pull the joints nice and snug, and then you exhale, you push, get your core to work a little bit. You'll see that that's the natural way that the weight wants to move. If you just go like this with no turning whatsoever in the joints, you can do it, but biomechanically, that's not the preferred way. Right? So a little bit of rotation, you can explore it. See how that works for yourself. Even if you're doing 2, you could still work with that spiraling motion. And just be mindful that as you reach up, that you don't let that hand drift too far away from you. Because if you're going like that, it's a longer lever arm. It's going to put more stress on the shoulder joint and the tendons there. So if you shorten the lever arm as you push and you really reach from the armpit, feel the core muscles, feel the structures of your pelvis, and feel it, you can use the floor. Then you get the whole body functioning in an integrated way. All this stuff that I just demonstrated for reaching overhead, applies to reaching forward. It actually applies to pulling as well. It's these same basic concepts that you can train yourself to utilize the ground path, the kinetic chain, your awareness of the ground, to bring power from your leg mass through the trunk and finally into the arms. So you don't just do things compulsively from a smaller part of your body mass, right? So the whole idea is to get your body integrated. Keeps it more interesting too if you practice this level of awareness as you work out.